Hi, good afternoon everyone. Hope you can hear me. There we go. Right. I'm Joel, as it says on the slide, and it's an honour for me today to have been asked to speak at the conference. It's personally very special to speak at the first Success Conference here in Manchester, which is a place, as you said, I now call my home after growing up in London. And it was in London where I attended my first Success Conference several years ago. At that time, I was around 15 or 16 years old, and I'd recently undergone surgery to remove a craniopharyngioma. At the conference, I remember hearing from other survivors, as we have done today, about how to navigate adult life while managing the after effects of a brain tumour. And that was the first time that I had heard directly from other survivors who have had similar experiences to me. And I took an incredible amount of comfort from that and reassurance as well. Now, it's true that no two brain tumours are the same, which means that ultimately everyone who has had a brain tumour will be affected differently and will face their own individual challenges. But it's clear to me, from partly coming to these conferences, that childhood brain tumour survivors have much more in common than that which separates us. I think that this has a lot to do with not necessarily how we are physically impacted, but how these experiences make us feel, and therefore how we go on to manage our conditions. Now, today I've been given the opportunity to speak as a 24-year-old now about my own experiences, and specifically what it's been like living independently, going through university and now in professional employment, all whilst managing the effects of a brain tumour on my own. So while I've been writing this presentation, I thought about what I would tell myself if I could speak to a younger version of me who was still living at home, and all whilst managing the after effects of managing a brain tumour. And there are four key themes that I sort of thought of that I'd like to speak about today. You can see them on the slide there. Being brave and knowing my limits, trusting myself and taking ownership of my condition, being aware of support networks, and lastly, telling people about my condition. Now, of course, I can only speak about my own experience, but I think in these four themes, they apply regardless of the specific impacts of childhood brain tumours. So firstly, being brave and knowing my limits. So I moved away from London, from home, when I was 18 to go and study at the University of Liverpool. And I was really excited about moving so far away from home and living independently. At the time, I even joked about choosing to live in Liverpool specifically because it was one of the furthest away from home. But the truth is that this was the first time that I would have to manage my condition entirely independently. And that was a responsibility that did come with some trepidation. Keeping up to date with medical appointments, ordering and collecting prescriptions, taking and adjusting medication, and just looking after myself generally. They were all things that I had support with from my parents when I lived at home that I now had to manage on my own. One of the biggest things that helped me when I first moved away was being brave and managing my condition and not being afraid of making mistakes. And this is not to say that I was not giving the attention to my medical condition that it needs, but I was determined that I didn't want to let it get in the way of any opportunities that come with independence. And to do this, learning what my limits are became really important. As an example, for me, knowing my limits meant not going out as much as some of my friends. I learned quite quickly that too many nights out would have an effect on me that was different to my friends, and taking it too far would have consequences that are far more serious. But I also knew that if I was sensible, I wouldn't have to miss out. And finding that balance has become really important for me in being able to manage my condition independently. And this only happened because I was brave in the first instance and just gave it a go. Knowing your limits doesn't have to mean that there are certain things that you can and cannot do. To me, this means learning to be comfortable with the fact that you have to do things in your own way. I think this is probably true for everyone, whether you have a serious medical condition or not. But for people like me who are managing a serious medical condition, it forces you to make decisions that do prioritise your health. And being comfortable with that has been really important for me in managing my condition on my own and not letting my condition prevent me from doing anything. So Secondly, trusting myself and taking ownership of my condition. I remember being at a consultation with a doctor shortly after going through brain surgery. I was probably 15, 16 at the time, and that doctor told me just in passing that I'm the only person that truly knows how I feel, which does seem perhaps like an obvious thing to say, but when you're young and going through something scary like surgery or therapy, and all of the science is complicated, and words like panhypopituitarism are too long to say, let alone understand, I found myself feeling entirely dependent on the doctors and professionals who were looking after me. And it's still the case, of course, that I have complete trust in my medical care, and the care I receive continues to be invariably faultless. But what has changed is my own relationship with my medical condition, and this has changed through living independently. Since moving away from home and managing my condition independently, I've taken ownership of my condition. I've put myself in charge. Where I used to feel dependent on doctors, who of course are the experts in knowing what treatments may be required in certain situations, I came to the realization that I'm the expert in knowing how I feel, and I found really great strength in that. So to me, taking ownership of your condition means listening to your body, understanding what's important to your health, and being in control. So when I was in my second year of university, and some friend suggested to me climbing Snowdon, the highest mountain in Wales, I'd never attempted something that would be so physically and mentally challenging. And my initial reaction was that it would just be unwise for me to join in because of the toll that such a challenge could take on my health. I gave it a go because it was something that I thought I would never be able to do. I took all the appropriate provisions, like packing my emergency kit and taking an extra dose, and I joined the climb. The sense of accomplishment on reaching the summit is one of my proudest memories, and it's given me the confidence now to try other things that may also seem intimidating at first. Now, I feel lucky that I'm in a position where I can own my condition, and I think that comes from having a trust in myself, that I'm not just capable of managing my health independently, but actually the most capable person, because only I know how I feel and what I need. Now, I should say, of course, managing a serious health condition on your own is difficult, and it can be overwhelming. In my case, this isn't always to do with the day-to-day management of my condition, such as remembering to take all of my medications, of which there's a long list, like a lot of people will relate to. But it's more about the what if anything happens, and that could make me in a vulnerable position or put my health at risk. Now, I know that no matter how well I manage my condition on a daily basis, I will always be more high risk and vulnerable than someone who hasn't had a brain tumour. The what if element of having a serious health condition for me means carrying an underlying fear wherever I go that things could change at any moment. And in those times, I think it's important to be aware of what support is available, and that's what I'd like to speak about next, number 3. So being aware of support networks. Support networks exist because everyone needs help sometimes, and some people need more help than others. I think that knowing when to use support and what support is available to me is in itself a strength of independently managing a health condition. When I first joined university in Liverpool, I explored the support that was available for disabled students. And for me, this included access to additional time in exams and increased flexibility for coursework submissions. And also I was offered various technology to help in lectures. And my experience overall in accessing extra support while at university was excellent. And also I had no shame in using it because it was on my own terms and it was independent. Of course, Success, the charity itself, provides a major support network. And before Success, I felt as though I was the only person who had gone through what I experienced. Getting to know people now who have shared experience is very powerful because it makes you realise that you're not the only one and that there are other people that just understand what it's like. There are many ways, of course, that Success can support people going through similar challenges to what I face. And if you're not already involved, I encourage you to look into the opportunities that the charity provides. So, fourthly, telling people about my condition. Now, aside from managing the day-to-day independently, another challenge when living away from home is meeting new people and getting to a point where you should probably tell them about your condition. Now, the approach I took to this was to completely wing it, and I think that's okay, because I think it's only up to me to decide who I tell and what I tell them and when I tell them. But there are exceptions to that, though, I think, because sometimes it's important to tell people. Now, for example, there are people I live with and work with who probably should know about my condition in case they ever need to understand what's going on or they need to help. Now, that can be really daunting and difficult, telling people that you have a serious health condition or a disability. And I also find it awkward sometimes trying to explain a pretty complicated medical background to people that probably won't understand what I'm going on about, which is okay because it is rare and complicated. Now, I especially felt that when I started my job here in Manchester. I knew that it would be the right thing to do to make the people I work with aware of my condition. But all I wanted to do was try and fit in and settle in and do a good job. I didn't want talking about my condition to make me special or to make people think about me differently at work. Now, quite soon after starting my job, I received a call from HR. Worried for different reasons. They had noticed actually that on some form I had ticked a box that said I had a serious disability or medical condition, and they wanted to find out how they could support me, which eventually led to a series of positive conversations, including one with my manager specifically, in which I told him all about my condition. After this, I immediately obviously felt relieved that he knew, and it was not that he now understood the details of my condition and the exact challenges that I face or what I've been through, because that's not really what I expected. But people at work simply having the awareness that I am managing a serious health condition and what they need to know, giving me the flexibility and support that I needed, is exactly what I could have hoped for. Now, outside of work, I'm more relaxed about talking about my medical condition. In most situations, I have to say, I don't think there is a right or wrong way or time to tell people about your condition. The most important thing, of course, is making sure that you're comfortable about it and it's on your own terms. Now, I think that's just about the end of my 10 minutes, so I'll leave it there. I'm happy to take questions or later on, but I'm also around for the rest of the afternoon, so if you want to have a chat, then do. Thank you.